It is at this time that we take time to highlight not only our senior of the month, but also other dignitaries and community members within our community that have done great things for our district. We're going to start off first with someone who's given pounds and pounds of supplies. I want to say, how do I reference it? We had supplies that went to schools throughout the district. I'm literally today, not today, was it a few weeks ago, we had boxes through half of this boardroom, thanks to Prairie Band Casino, who comes out every year. Will the officials from Prairie Band Casino come forward at this time? So, in the program that they do, the more I learn, the more amazing it is. So I'm going to turn it over to one of them to share a little bit about what they do for the community, what they've done for us. We do want to take this time in particular to give the award. The certificate is proudly presented to Prairie Band Casino in recognition of the donations for school supplies, serving our 14,000 students, 600 homeless students, and the many, many new teachers that we have every year. We thank you for your support. Now, does someone want to share briefly how this all works and what we're supposed to do?
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Being a former teacher, being a former school administrator, I know that there's always that need there for children and for teachers. And so this was kind of one of the ways that we thought we could help out our local communities. We gave to a little over 30 schools here in Northeast Kansas. Probably none of us would be here without a good teacher. And so it was a way to say thank you. We had over 500 customers that donated the items. And really it was this group of people right here that they planned, they executed, and then they delivered all of the school supplies. So I owe them a big thank you. And thanks again for having us, Dr. Anderson.
And we do ask for those names that we're calling for folks to stay around for 5 minutes because we do have a photo that we'd like to take. At this time, we also would like to call up our Senior of the Month. This is always the most exciting time. Last year we started a new tradition. We have a Senior of the Month so we can highlight them. We also have their video, which we now create and publish. So we're going to start off with a little glimpse of our Senior of the Month, and then we'll ask Mr. Knoll to come up and introduce his senior.
Marilena is a student who, she just has an infectious smile. She walks into a room and she just lights up the room. She's so concerned about others and very empathetic, and she really looks to help people. She's just a great kid.
My favorite thing about Hope Street is that the smaller environment, and the teachers really work one-on-one with us. They actually care to make sure that we understand the subject.
Watching her grow up and mature and just blossom into the wonderful person that she's become, it's just been a real pleasure. During her time here at Hope Street, she's been involved in several of our clubs at Hope Street, United Hope, Good Vibes. She's volunteered at the Ren Festival. Her grades have been wonderful. She's got plans for the future.
I plan to go to Allen Community College for the 2 years to get my associates in criminal justice, and then go to Washburn and for the other 2 years to get my bachelor's in criminal justice. First, I would like to go into the police academy to start off as being a police officer, hopefully move up to be working with the FBI as a profiler.
Advice for her in the next stages of her life is stay true to yourself, stay true to your dreams. Hard work will pay off. I promise you, you keep doing what you're doing and you will get there to where you need to be.
At this time, we'd like for Mr. Knoll to come up and call up his Senior of the Month and share a little bit about her.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. I got to tell you that Madalena, when she came to Hope Street, she came at the beginning of her sophomore year of high school, but when she came to Hope Street, she was still a freshman in credits. She was very shy. She was withdrawn. She was pretty unsure of herself and what she wanted to do and who she wanted to be and what she wanted to become. And so in that video, where I had said what a pleasure it was and an actual honor to watch her grow up and watch her mature and seriously blossom, that's the wonderful thing about my job, quite honestly. And for me to know her the day she came to Hope Street and now to know her now, it's not only a privilege, but I'm so proud of her because she's gone from the person that she entered Hope Street to, she wants to clean the streets of crime, folks. I mean, she wants to work for the FBI. So to see how far she's come, hey, let's just give her a hand. Not even
You have any questions? Mr. Woods, of course.
Why, thank you, Mr. President. Also, Ms. Mendez, congratulations very much. Absolutely awesome to have your accomplishments celebrated in this way, and no doubt you definitely deserve them, and you're going to make a great law enforcement officer. You're going to rise all the way up into being a profiler with the FBI. My only question, I guess, is how did you decide that that's what you wanted to be?
I think just the ability to help people with justice and make sure that everyone, no matter race, gender, background, ethnicity, is given the same opportunities and justice, not just because of color and everything that's going on in the world. I just want to help people.
Sure. So I appreciate that. No doubt you'll do that. The only other question I have, I guess, is of all the teachers that you had at Hope Street, all the opportunities, even if it wasn't somebody who was your designated teacher, a chance encounter with some other adult that made a difference. Who is that? I guess, sorry to put you on the spot. And if it's multiple, you can just say multiple and give the smart political answer.
I think all the teachers are here.
Okay, so they're all awesome. I fully understand.
They all have helped me in different ways, whether it be with my confidence or with helping me, because they all help me try to make sure that I understand the subject, and they're really there for me and all the other students. And Miss Angie Siemens, she's really helped me with colleges and doing all that stuff, and kind of really boosting my confidence, telling me, you can do this, and Mr. He's just been he's the best principal that I've ever had, and he's so nice and generous to all the students and so kind to all the people that he meets.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Motley, do you have anybody that's with you tonight, family, or would you like to introduce them?
I have my grandfather here, Miguel Farias, and my grandmother, Patricia Farias.
Hello. Ms. Whitaker. Ms. Whitaker. And Ms. Angie Simmons. Mr. Fulbright. Mr. Swartz. And Miss Frisbee.
First, I'd like to present her with some flowers. I know this is, make sure you smell good. I want your smell good. There you go. And then we also have a Allen County shirt for her.
And Miss Menendez, you forgot your one.
And the additional highlight, the communications team has put together an item recognizing our school board members because it is National School Board Week. And so each one of the schools have given shirts, but I'm going to turn it over to our amazing communications team. Mr. DeMayo, are you coming up? Share the wealth and having a little dialogue about what we have that's sitting out.
All right, well, we celebrate you guys this whole month, so thank you guys for everything you do. It is a ton of work from being on the inside now, seeing how many meetings they have to go to, school visits, and all kind of different aspects across the district. It is a tireless job. People who complain better have a good reason, because you guys do a lot of good work for this district and don't get anything for it in terms of compensation. But we know you guys are investing in the lives of students, and we truly appreciate it. From my coworkers, fellow coworkers, I know they feel the same way. Recently, I figured out that there's a vault, we call it, downstairs, and it houses a lot of our records, a lot of historical data from the district. So I started going in the vault, kind of looking around, starting to geek out over some history stuff. Came across a special book that we have up here today, and it's from 1867. It's the first board meeting minutes that we've ever located. It's actually handwritten down. It's beautifully written, very, very cool. And we invite you guys to come see it, as well as everyone who's here today. We have a lot of other documents and stuff that we're kind of filtering through. We kind of have a pseudo history club, Dr. Anderson likes to call it, aka it's just lunch with friends, and we talk about geeky things in history. And so I've got some books that I'm looking through, but I invite you guys to come over and look at that, and just want to say thank you. You guys are part of truly a legacy from 1867, and at any time we're doing something bigger than ourselves, we're a part of something bigger than ourselves, it really gives us a lot of meaning behind what we do. And I think this book kind of represents that you guys are carrying a torch that's been carried since 1867 in the city of Topeka. So thank you guys.
And as we conclude our recognitions, we do want to share that Mr. Patrick Woods has received the Honor Roll Level 1 from KASB Leadership Academy Training Program for 2016-17. It happened to come right at National School Board Month, so we thought this is a great time to give you this as well. Congratulations, Mr. Woods. We ask the board members to come up for photos, and we'll start off with our Senior of the Month, and then Prairie Band, and we will continue on with the board meeting.
All right, Menendez family and the Hope Streeters, y'all roll big. That many teachers coming to support young people, that's fantastic. So we'll just plug someone in and
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Once to eat, and then the last couple of weeks. Maybe I better get in front of
there you go. That looks good. We look good. Find a pocket. Okay.
All right, here we go. Everyone look up here.
Ready? One. Okay, I did like 20, so both of them.
All right, board members, if you can stay, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Superintendent, come on up. You all roll good too. All right, well.
All right, one more.
You have a wonderful granddaughter.
That's kind of crazy to use two cameras at the same time. I always like an over smile. I'm like,
Well, have a good evening.
Well, thanks, guys.
I know, like, that's
So, ready to move on? I'm ready for a motion to adopt the agenda.
teach Chromebook. See, man.
So, any discussion? Ready to vote? Moving on, we're ready for public communications. Mr. Woods, she needs you. Okay, so it passed. Okay. So public communications. So ready for disposition of business by consent?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Any second? Any discussion? Ready to vote? Okay, we are ready for the superintendent's report.
This evening, we are so fortunate to have Dr. Gomez with us. As the PowerPoint comes up, Dr. Gomez will make his way to the microphone, as will Mrs. Curry, to share a little bit about the work that we're doing with dual language. Dr. Gomez has been here for the last 2 days, meeting with parents and staff, and also doing staff development. I'll stop there and turn it over to Dr. Gomez. As you know, within our strategic plan, this is a big initiative, and he is working with us to plan this out. So, Dr. Gomez, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All righty. Well, good day to everyone. And by the way, y'all take winter really serious up here. I want to note it for the record. Coming from Texas, and thank you. There we go. Appreciate it. Coming from Texas, I heard it snowed in Florida, so maybe it's just an anomaly going on. But great to be here. I always have a pleasure to be in the Topeka area. Always wonderful people that I meet here everywhere I turn. I have, I think, one slide up coming up. Was talking about the dual language program and what I've done so far this year with the district. It's the next one here, there we go. And so this year, it's been a busy year for me and for the dual language program. I presented a workshop to the DL teachers. That includes Scott and Whitson and Landon teachers. Conducted classroom visits, more like walkthroughs at that point because the teachers still needed more training into more of the expectations. That was early on in the year. Then we also had an opportunity to participate with a focus group regarding the secondary plan for dual language and for Scott Magnet program. We're focusing on the rigor part. One thing about the Gomez and Gomez model is it's academic rigor first, linguistics second, although we end up with both at the end by the end of 5th grade. And so that's an area that we really stressed and pushed and looked at in those elementary programs. We initiated a new accountability system or plan. I call it the Concentric Circles accountability system, where it's designed to do that, to get the teachers and the program there quicker as far as the environment and things like that, so that we can then focus on the instructional side and move it towards where it needs to be. And I got to visit Whitson, for example, today, the classroom visits in Whitson, and I'm glad to say that from my visit in, what was it, late October, November? Basically in about a month's time with the holidays still in there for good measure, they did a considerable amount of work that teachers did and the administration and Anita and the whole team, and they really did a lot in getting those teachers to get those classrooms where they needed to get to in order to be the success that they want to realize. And so today I went and did another classroom visits and I got to see that. And so we had a training just yesterday on now implementing the Gomez and Gomez dual language cycle, which is designed to bring that rigor up and take advantage of those components in the classroom. And so again, all 3 programs were there, Landon, Whitson, and Scott, and we had a good full day of training. And so now we went back to visit Whitson today, and now the expectation in that accountability concentric circle is to now bring that cycle into play, to bring it into the classroom, and start then realizing the benefits of the model, and both academically and linguistically, to increase it to a higher place. Yesterday afternoon, in this very building, we got a chance to visit with a high school focus group, as there was ongoing discussions as to where to house a high school program. I know Mr. Woods was there, and Dr. Anderson, and Billy, and others. It was a pretty good group, about 20-25, and they had a good discussion for about an hour and a half on some of the criteria or merits, if you will, in considering where to house the high school dual language program, given the different ramifications of, feeding patterns and populations and space and capacity and whatnot. So it was facilitated by Anita and Dr. Anderson, and they did a really good job of bringing together the pros and cons for each side, and those discussions will continue as well. So that's kind of like what I did this year in the opportunities I had to visit. I think I have February 2nd and April 27th, 2 more visits to come back. And I think February 2nd, I think it's shaping up to be maybe a day of professional development, either with a half day with the elementary, half day with the secondary, or bringing them all together. We haven't really worked out the details, but trying to see how that lesson plan cycle is working and tying that up as well. And then, of course, we had the one at the end in April 27th, and we haven't fleshed out, again, the content of that yet, but that'll be then the end of this fiscal year, and then making the plans for the following. I have to say, as an overall summary, the dual language program in Topeka Public Schools has made a quantum leap this last year from what it had been when I first started visiting. couple of years ago. It's been like this is the third year, and they've been getting stronger every year. But this year I really felt like they've taken really that hard turn, and I'm excited for the teachers, I'm excited for the kids, I'm excited for the benefits that are going to be derived from now going down this road. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Anita. Or do you have
I
questions?
think we're gonna open it up to questions, and we do wanna mention that, you know, the LEAP, that one of the things that, we believe in is that the, students should be excelling at high levels in our dual language program, and so one of the things that, you know, we've asked Dr. Gomez to do is to pair up with our teachers and our principals, and I wanted them to do walkthroughs, and so he did walkthroughs at every school prior to now, that was the October visit, and really pointed out areas where there could be strengthening, and just teaching, and using that to drive professional development. And so that's really paying off very quickly with some adjusted practices. So with that, we're going to turn it open to questions, and then we'll close out with just a reminder of what the strategic plan says in terms of where we want to be at the end of this year and where we're going. So any questions from board members?
Dr. Michaels?
Thank you for coming and offering your expertise. I've been on the board for 4 years now, and I've heard of the Gomez and Gomez model for these 4 years, so it's a privilege to actually meet you. And
Well, thank you, sir. Just for the record, if it's good things you've heard, believe every word.
I do.
If it's bad things you've heard, it's about half right.
Dr. Gomez, there's another Gomez in the Gomez and Gomez model. Are you related? Is it your spouse, your brother, your?
I happen to know the guy. He's my brother.
Okay,
He's my
that's
younger
my
brother.
Okay.
We both graduated at A&M with PhDs, and we made dual language expertise, and we've both been doing this for like 22 years. And so that's the other Gomez part of the Gomez and Gomez.
I work with an Aggie. I see the big ring on your right hand. I should have known. Gig him.
That's right. We're still gigging him.
I live with it every day. Trust me. In your travels as a consultant, I suppose you see lots of districts where dual language succeeds wildly. And I just wonder, what are the characteristics of those programs that make them so successful in your?
It begins with an understanding that it has to be academics first. It cannot be language first, because then you end up with kids that have 2 languages but are weak academically. So it's got to be the understanding that we're going to look at it academics first, but we're also going to learn another language to come with it. So at the end of the day, we'll have both, but they're both going to be high academics. And so we've helped quite a few districts change for what the things that we're doing before where they're not being successful. That's always the surprise to folks, is we don't want to talk about language. We got the language part, that's going to happen. Talk to me about the reading and the writing and the math and the science. Talk to me about the skills. Because otherwise, you know, what's the point of having 2 languages if they're a couple of years behind academically? So our focus is on the academic side. And once we can change the conversation from people not talking about how quickly can we get ELL kids to learn English, but instead about how quickly can we get ELL kids to exceed academically, then the focus turns to the right place, which is the academics. And then because the model is half English, half Spanish, the language side comes with it, but it comes with it with a strong academic purpose. So we have 29 best practices that is the best we know in research, how the human brain learns information and processes it and retains it. Those 29 best practices we put into our model. Our model is a marriage of second language acquisition research with best practices, how human beings learn best, and we married those 2 together. And that's what we've been, you know, at the risk of sounding them out, is very successful for 22 years. We've never lost 1 patient yet in 22 years. We're up to about 168 school districts, 900 schools, and across 11 states. And the one thing that they all have in common is once they make that turn that corner and start looking at the academics, because your program in a few years, your kids in dual language are going to be some of the highest performing academic kids in your district. That's the way it is in about 85% of our districts. The DL kids are the highest performing in the district because of that academic focus, because we correct the language of instruction for the second language learners, so now we can ask them to perform at a higher level academically, and we bring all these things together, then of course the results follow. And that's why I'm so excited when I did the classroom visits today. I was so excited to see that in the span of about a month, with that new accountability system, that your principals really took it to heart and really started to do that. And with Anita and the program, how much they've come in just a very short period of time to the point that now I feel confident now that now with the lesson plan cycle, we're going to be able to take it to that next level. And in no time at all, your kids are going to be performing very well academically. Good question, thank you.
Dr. McCarthy.
Hi, thank you again for coming. Do you have other recommendations for us as a school board specifically when you look at kind of our role in promoting dual language schools and making the case to the community?
Thank you, good question. My experience has been that the clearer the expectations of the board are to the community, the clearer they are, and the more they put out there as early as possible, even though I believe always in measuring twice, I've always said measuring twice and cutting once, that you want to think of all the attributes even before you take a stand. But the question, for example, I did a FYI with all the staff at Landon today, at the end of the school day. And it was just to give them kind of like an overview of what dual language is, because they tend to kind of, you know, when there's a void, it just gets filled with misinformation, and it gets to be filled with anxiety. And so it's good to just kind of give them an idea of what it is, and their jobs are not on the line, and it's a strand, and not going to be like in a year all dual language in London, and it's just all kinds of misinformation. So one of the things they asked was, is the district going to commit to this program? Do we have their commitment to this program? And I know you do, but that's, again, some of that lack of awareness, if you will, out there. And those are our teachers, then I'm wondering what about our parents, and I'm wondering what about our students. And so when we can, as a board, because you set the vision for the district, you set the overall plan and green light the different projects, and once we get that in and get it out there like you do in other things. But dual language is one of those programs that can get, as you know, very politically very fast. And you have some hard decisions to decide as a program, as it moves to the high school, et cetera. As far as capacity, how many numbers can you serve? How much staffing can you bring to bear? They're all the things that they're nuts and bolts, but are really going to be part of the decision making into how big, how fast, how wide, and how many places. Well, all those things translate out into the public. And so once the decisions are made and the board holds fast to them, I think that goes a long way for confidence to building. And getting that misinformation, what I call demystifying the program, getting the information out there, and statements from the board or statements from the superintendent and such. And I know Anita all the time has to say, because I heard her say often, we don't know yet on that. We haven't decided that. We don't know yet. And that's normal because you're making those plans. But that's the interest that's out there, that they want to know all the answers yesterday. And that some of them are not possible. But as they become answerable, then we would share the information. That's what I would suggest.
Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Dr. Gomez, thank you very much for being in our district and got a chance, as you mentioned, to be a part of the conversation you facilitated yesterday. I thought it was excellent. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about a little bit more, because it really piqued my interest, hearing at the high school level specifically, the fact that pretty much the level of rigor that is demanded to take a core content course, or even some of the other electives as a dual language course, is akin to, if not, surpassing the AP type of rigorous courses. Talk a little bit about, if you can, give us some examples. You kind of started on it yesterday, but we talked a lot, so you didn't have time to go into too much detail. But other districts have had the positive spillover effects from dual language at the high school, where they've seen academic rigor lift in all of their subjects, and they've had students be able to make all kinds of great choices that they normally wouldn't have if a dual language program was not in their high school. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Certainly.
Tell us what other districts' experiences have been.
Certainly, thank you. Our first secondary dual language program was in a county that is the poorest county in the United States of America. That's Hidalgo County down in South Texas. Every year they're the poorest county in the whole country. And they went to dual language at the elementary level at 2 schools, and they expanded to 6 schools, and they expanded to secondary, and then they had started adding middle schools. And eventually they have 8 middle schools now, and they have 5 high schools implementing dual language. So they have pre-K-12. It's the first in the district pre-K, in the country, pre-K-12 district of dual language. Now, they're about to get a lot of company, because other districts like Dallas and Fort Worth and Grand Prairie and others are right behind them. They're already at the middle school level, and their plan is to continue to the high school level. But this area, the reason I mentioned the demographics, because it's, all the challenges that come with poverty, you can imagine. I was mentioning today to someone that their biggest fundraiser or their biggest event that the school district does is in November, and it's a coat gathering event where they gather coats and sweaters and things like that, so that when come winter, the parents can go in there to the schools and actually select coats and sweaters and jackets for their kids, because they don't have coats, sweaters, and jackets for the winter. It's a very poor county. And yet, this very poor county, not because of dual language, is producing kids that have their Associate of Arts degree already completed by the time they graduate high school. They have AP credits, dual college credits, enough where they start as a junior now when they finish high school. They're getting all kinds, every child that graduated out of that dual language program gets a full ride scholarship free to go to universities all over our country. So it can have a very dramatic impact on a community. Well, then that started to then spill over to the regular program. If they can do that there, why can't we do that here? Minus the two languages, but all in English, to do all the same kind of things. So in that district, every child in the district takes the AP test beginning with 7th grade and 8th grade. Every child in the district. And what they found out is a lot of kids, because of this new emphasis on the academics and doing dual language, if you will, a lot of kids in the neighborhood of 75, 77% were getting college credits beginning in 7th grade and 8th grade. And so they were going into high school already with college credits. And so it's had that ripple effect throughout. Not every one of their high schools are college-ready high schools, where not just the DL kids are involved, but it's also a lot of the regular program kids. And so it's been a very transformative program for the whole district and community. It wasn't easy, it's not easy here. Anytime there's a paradigm shift, it's not easy. There's a lot of hurdles to tackle, there's a lot of things, logistics and whatnot, but the impact of the program can be quite dramatic. We see it in elementary all the time. When your regular program teacher, so that kinder teacher, that first grade teacher, looks at that dual language teacher, and her kids are writing a full page in 15 minutes, and their kids are writing 2 sentences, they start asking, what are you guys doing to get those kind of results? So it starts to have an overlap impact or effect, if you will, on the whole school. And we're already seeing that, Landon, Mr. Boggs, the principal, is already asking all the content teachers to adopt the pairing, to adopt the word walls, to adopt some of the components in our model that can easily be moved into the regular program as well. And so you're starting to see the beginning of it, but eventually it really is going to take up. And so going to your first question about the level of the coursework, what they learn in PSJA right away is they cannot compete with pre-med program and other wonderful academic programs that are at the district level at the high school. They cannot compete with those programs with these kids unless their program, the DL program, is also a premier academic program. Because these kids are then very strong, and so they have choices to go to this program, go to that program, go to that program. So they're all competing for the elite kids. So then your product has to be something that some elite kids want to do dual language secondary versus do pre-med or do some other thing. And that's where that whole connection to the dual credits and the college credits and the AP and everything started discussion. The other thing they learned right away is Anita cannot supervise that secondary program because those kids are no longer ELL on the ELL side. They became non-ELL when they left elementary. So the majority, 80%, 90% of the kids in that secondary dual language program are non-ELLs. You may have newcomers come in, but the percentage, the number will be very small compared to those that are not ELL. So then the district has to decide, okay, who's going to look over the program at the secondary level because they're non-ELL kids. These are all strong, academic kids. And that's another thing they had to then look at. And because a lot of our schools are used to having the ELL program be the one to come and save the day. Hey, ELL program, we need materials. Hey, ELL program, we need training. Hey, ELL program. And so when it goes to secondary, they realize, oh no, we gotta own this. The principals have to own it because it just happens that it's taught in Spanish, but it's science, it's math, it's social studies, it's whatever it is. It just happens to be taught in Spanish to non-ELL kids. So then they went through that phase where those principals and such had to begin to own the program and look for materials and things for them to support their teachers and their programs, and not just turn to the ELL program because legally they couldn't. They're non-ELL anymore.
And that's actually kind of the point that had my interest the most that I wanted to hear you. Thank you for talking about that. As I see it, basically, since the whole, a key component of dual language is having a college course, credit type of program attached to it, you're going to be offering a whole lot more things than you normally would that are going to count for college credit. And kids in their native language, whether it be English or Spanish, even if they're not dual language students, are going to have the opportunity to get in those courses. So the positive spillover for having 100% of your kids show up with college course work already under their belt when they graduate is pretty amazing. So I was really impressed with that, and otherwise, I mean, I just really thank you for helping us. This is a kind of personal interest for me, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the high school level. I know ESJ has been great, but you're about to have under your belt working with the best.
There you go.
in the country. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gomez.
Thank you.
And so as a reminder where we're going in the strategic plan, I will mention, and Dr. Gomez, is it Pearson that your textual material is being written in? As you may recall, upon joining the district, one of the textual materials that we selected was a Pearson product, which is ReadyGen. It's a Pearson product, is what I've used in my last district. But that same Pearson product soon will be coming out. The Spanish Gomez model portion of that product that actually Dr. Gomez himself has written, and that is the textbook publisher that we already use for all of our schools for our ReadyGen work. So we're excited, and it just speaks to the level of the caliber that we have in Dr. Gomez in leading this work. So we're excited about that. We also want to make sure that the reminder, so we moved the program into the middle school in 8th grade, and now the objective 1.2, it's under achievement in the strategic plan, is to create and design a continuum of services for dual language students at the high school level. So that's really what he's talked about. So that's what you can expect for this year, is for us to identify or those high schools or high school that will have the dual language program next as kids continue to matriculate. Any other questions about dual language as we continue on? Are you going to the other updates? So the other updates, just very briefly, we also want to mention that the MLK program of activities are coming up. With those program of activities, I believe you have on your calendar a list of a variety of activities. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Wallace, but this year our participation in the essay contest, the scholarship contest, it doubled or it's either doubled or tripled. So we really put an emphasis on people making sure that they get involved in the MLK program. Rather than going through what happens each day, we'll leave it to Ms. Kruger to share that information with you and/or the items that are on your list that you already have. You can kind of go through those. Mrs. Wallace, you want to add anything else about the MLK program or highlight some of the specific events that our kids will be at?
Tuesday night is the poetry contest, and I think at Antioch Baptist Church, and that's always a fun event to attend. Play Center.
So the rest of the activities, if they're not right in front of you, then Ms. Kruger will make sure that she emails you a copy of that if you don't already have them handy. And beyond that, our other updates, just as reminders, it is 52 days to the celebration of learning assessment. So today was the first day back to school. Yesterday was the convocation mid-year. And so these next several days that we have coming up, the KSDE department has put together a variety of predictive assessments. And we really are just having rallies and activities as opposed to calling it a test or any of those, but we've really planned a number of fun events. So look forward to getting those as well, and we encourage you to get involved in those as you would like to. Those are all, I believe, of our updates. Turn it back over to the board.
All right. We move on to board members' comments. Dr. Mickelson.
Just want to thank those involved with the activities of the convocation yesterday. I thought it was a wonderful event, great way to start things. Thank you to all those.
I would have to say ditto, and people are still talking about the convocation as well, sending emails saying thank you for sending us that news. I truly appreciate the inspiration and just the commitment to keep us up to date as to what's going on as a district, as a whole, as a TPS family. We are challenged to be a light in dark places.
I don't know if I should mention this, but I had the opportunity to speak to one of the Republican candidates for governor. He wanted to know about school finances. And so I think I pointed him in the right direction for that. And he's more a moderate Republican, and I think would do a much better job than some of the more conservative, in my opinion, representing schools. I don't have anything else. Motion for. Okay. Motion for adjournment. Discussion? All right, we're ready to vote. Any opposed to adjournment?